Nothing new here, except maybe for a best practice example. So what does it mean, destination approach? Destination approach is actually the need to go beyond the individual solutions, to individual lovely examples of best practice, lovely examples of accessibility and inclusion. In order to create accessible and inclusive destinations, there is a need for a long-term strategy, and there is a big need for networking between different types of stakeholders. One accommodation owner with the vision to make its establishment more inclusive is a great asset, but he doesn't make the entire destination. He needs a support and he needs collaboration with different providers of accessible services in order to create a meaningful itinerary for tourists with different kinds of disabilities to come and to enjoy. And in order to, let's say, connect these dots on destinational level, there is always a need for some clear supporting framework. When we say framework, basically we think to list several steps on what destinational authorities need to do to support this process. This is the framework that we actually researched and introduced in our books on breaking barriers and creating accessible and inclusive tourist destinations. And it's made of only 3 steps. 1, 2, 3. Not too complicated. The first step is something that destination managers do regardless of accessibility efforts. This step is focused on improving usability of tourism products and services. So when we talk about very, very unpredictable tourism markets, you cannot stay at with the same tourist offer for ages, for decades, because tourists will stop coming. There is a constant need for improvement, for changing, for offering something different, something better. And in that process, when you are investing and actually doing efforts in changing things, why not also think of accessibility and think of inclusiveness? Here, again, they are separated because we saw we can make something accessible. We can tick the box. We can be very happy about it. But without training our employees, without training ourselves, without thinking truly how to create a welcoming environment for those tourists to come and use our accessible infrastructure, it won't be the entire picture. It won't be successful. Okay, but it's not enough. You created something great, innovative, interesting for tourists. You made it accessible. You decided and you managed to make it inclusive. But nobody's coming. You are very proud of it. Your friends are coming. Everybody's clapping. But at the end of the year, your statistics are terrible because nobody's coming. Where is our target group? Where are people that you created it for? Here comes the step 3, and this is integration and the promotion of this tourist offering. Not by any means, anyhow, but in an accessible manner. That's why we started today with universal design. That's why you heard about easy language. Very simple, because simple messages are usually the strongest ones. That's why we're listening about web accessibility. If your website is not accessible, if people with disabilities cannot find the information, they will give up on you. They maybe won't take an extra effort to find, are you really that accessible and inclusive? They will just say, this is too much for me, this is not accessible, I will go to another destination. And when you think about this integration and promotion of the tourist offer, and we tackled this topic several times during today's lectures, there is this one thing that we mustn't and shouldn't forget about. This beautiful motto that has a long history of usage for marginalized groups, but now it's very, very popular in terms of involvement of people with disabilities. Nothing about us without us. Like my colleague Natasha said, as persons without disabilities, we can only think what could be accessible. We can guess. We can have educated guess on it. We can research. But who can really give us proper and exact information? Somebody who has that particular disability. That's why it's important to contact and to cooperate with associations and individuals with disabilities in all these steps. Because you can think good, you can invest, you can make everything great, but at the end, it doesn't do the trick. It doesn't really doing its task because you forgot to involve those for whom you are actually creating this particular service or product. And this is something that we noticed that all of these examples of best practice have integrated. All of these solutions that we've been presenting are tested by persons with disabilities. And this is extremely important. We have two examples of best practice. We have one that I'm not going to talk nothing about because it's yours. But as we could read and understand from the brochure that is available online, you had this part of including associations with disabilities in testing.
Yeah, we work with the regional association of people with disabilities. So we do everything with the associations and people with disabilities. So we go in the locations, we speak with them. We, for example, when we do something on the website, we ask them to see, to try, because we know about tourists, but not.
I have one question. This is something that we don't know the answer to, and we are searching it in the practice. Are associations of persons with disabilities more open to cooperation with public sector in terms of destination management organizations or public agencies, maybe municipalities, or with private sector when particular owners ask them to test something? We've noticed that usually this cooperation goes through public sector, like it's some kind of a, how do you call it, enzyme, or that chemical reaction that requires somebody in the middle. Do you have similar experiences? Does it all go through you?
I can say that it was not easy to start this cooperation because now we work together since 2015, so now are 10 years that we cooperate. But I started to ask them in 2013, so it took 2 years for me to have a dialogue with them and to have probably their trust.
Their trust,
Yeah.
We heard
so
similar examples.
Yeah, so it's not so easy, but after 10 years, yes, we work very good. I think that it depends because many private providers, in my opinion, many times you have to be quite careful because most of them want just to have I don't know how to say, but just they want just to communicate and improve their brand or to give a message.
They want to appear very inclusive.
Yeah, and I know that many times this appears because they I don't remember if you or someone of you told said before that you have to think about the not the business but the value of the touristic providers first think about business. Remember, so many times that's happened. So maybe they don't have faith, they don't trust, and they don't want to work with private providers.
Thank you for sharing your insights. We all have questions, and sometimes it's important to exchange these questions and opinions. This training and education is not something that we know everything about, and you are here to listen. We are also here to listen and to see your perspectives. So thank you also for being active, and if somebody also wants to share something, now is more or less time to do it. And now we will go on our final example, the example. So I think my colleagues and other speakers several times said there are some places that they would like to go. This is my new go-to place that I'm preparing my budget to go to, San Cristobal de la Laguna, Tenerife. So Spain in general is one of the most accessible countries and most advanced countries in Europe when it comes to strategies and legislative on accessibility. And this small town of 160,000 inhabitants is a winner of this Access City Award that is being awarded by European Commission every year for cities that really did a good job on accessibility and inclusion. let's see what do they offer. Let's start with the fact that they didn't start with this in 2023 and then win an award in 2024. From 2005, they are slowly working on the accessibility and pedestrianization of the historical city center. So they are moving away cars. They are creating barrier-free flat surfaces. And they are advancing slowly, but they are doing a great job. Also, all of the public buildings, slowly but surely, they are introducing the accessibility elements in them. Street crossings, tactile paths, it's something that's very normal and common there. Not that when you find it, you say, oh, wow, this is great. The entire town, the entire historic center is completely accessible in that manner. 100% of accessible tramways. Not one, not two, not five, all of them. And here you can see 92% of the urban bus fleet and 70% of the intercity buses. Now we are talking about the entire island of Tenerife. So these statistics are really, really, really successful. These are results of the continuous work and effort. Inclusive natural attractions. Here you can see they have not one but several multi-sensory trails when they actually allow residents and visitors to enjoy the nature, not just by walking and moving, but also to explore the nature with different senses. Here you can see accessible natural swimming pools that are built right next to the beaches because of the very simple fact that bathing in the ocean is not without dangers, even for people without disabilities. So this is the way to make those beaches inclusive also for other persons. They have specific targeted whale watching excursions for persons with different disabilities, for children, for visual, hearing, or intellectual disabilities. So all of these excursions are tailor-made. They are focused on different types of disabilities, but focused to provide them all with a unique tourist experience. Not one, not two, over 30 inclusive playgrounds around the city. All of them being designed with having different abilities of children in mind. When it comes to culture, they have lots and lots of cultural events. Some of them are very special and specific because, like this educational film festival, they have direct participation of persons with different disabilities. In this case, we are talking about people with intellectual disabilities that are also often neglected in these accessibility stories. They have also some different painting and gallery expositions also with persons with disabilities. This is something I don't know, have you heard about it before? Sensitive backpacks. Do you know what those are?
For the concerts.
Sorry?
For the concerts, for music.
Yes. It looks like some kind of a life vest. It's not a backpack, it's more of a life vest. And persons who have hearing impairments, who are deaf, put those backpacks on, and through vibrations and basses, they can enjoy concerts and have this unique opportunity also to be involved in this type of activities. They have created a service to rent them to people when necessary on certain occasions. Of course, everywhere is an option for sign language during the cultural events, but also on the local and regional televisions. They have also have this innovative, let's call it a tool, titled Orange Point. Orange points are these specific dedicated points that are being provided by the municipality, so by the public sector, whenever there are some outdoor events. And these points are designed for persons with disability who have certain impairment or are in need of additional information, different manner of giving information. These points are made for them precisely to be involved in the situation. They're ad hoc. They are created on site, and when the event is over, they also disappear. The guides, everything you can see, hear, explore, experience on Tenerife with different type of disabilities. Of course, accessible pools, accessible sports centers with these tactile pavements everywhere, not just on several places, but everywhere. And as part of the pedestrianization project, here we have map of city center with particularly dedicated green and purple lines with clear instructions for persons with reduced mobility, where to go and what to expect, practically on each corner. Impressive? So all the boxes, they decided to tick all the boxes necessary. This was something quite interesting. Accessible religious buildings. Although it should be something completely normal, and it makes sense, it's not very often that you can see that this type of ramps are being built right next to the churches or at the entrance of churches. Also here you can see that there are special adaptations for people with hearing or visual impairments, that they can also participate in masses. So all segments of public life and of tourist offer are actually covered in some form of accessibility. They are not doing it by themselves, not one municipality, not the council. They have a very specific dedicated body titled Council for Disability and Promotion of Personal Autonomy. This council is continuously working on these improvements, assessing them, making plans for the future. Also, Tenerife have a strategy for removing barriers and improving accessibility. Usually they are making it for a 5-year period. And in this job, apart from this council, there is something very, very active and important, and this is Society for the Promotion of Persons with Disabilities. It's focused on the entire island, not just La Laguna. And here you can see something interesting. Of course, they are doing mappings, they are doing studies of accessibility, but they are holding this particular certificate for universal design. This is something that is being granted, if I'm not wrong, by Spanish national authorities. So it exists, and it's very important for them too. So nothing about them without them. And actually, my final point from this presentation is following. This destination, La Laguna and Tenerife, is not doing all of these efforts to be accessible and inclusive tourist destination. They want to be accessible and inclusive community for their residents, for their future. And everything that they do there, of course, is available for visitors as well. I intentionally didn't put any of the accessible hotels available there. There are lots of them. But most of these efforts and the awards and everything in that direction is actually based on the efforts of residents for the future of the community and residents. So once again, we are not talking about accessible tourism to make more money. We are talking about accessible future for our communities, and the additional money can, of course, be very well used when it comes. Thank you for your attention.